This is the Life's Better podcast, where we talk about how life is so much better with God, community, and purpose. Josh, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are 14,386 car accidents estimated every single day in the United States.
Every day?
Every day. Would you say that that's probably a high percentage or a high number of car accidents?
I thought that was over. I think you were going to say like per month.
No.
That's
every single day.
Jeez.
And they've found that there are certain locations that just have a higher rate of accidents, and one of those is at intersections, which makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but there have been plenty of sketchy moments where, because either someone wasn't paying attention to the light or the arrow, I mean, this is the moment where people are turning into one another, and if you're not paying attention, I mean, that's just prime opportunity for an accident.
Yeah.
That being said, can you imagine getting to the locations that you need to without intersections?
Impossible.
It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
So although they're, prime for accidents, without intersections, you're just not going to get to where you need to. And I think this is a really great metaphor for life, because life is really just a series of intersections. You've got choices. You can continue to go forward, you can make a U-turn, you can go right, you can go left. And because of the, nature of decision making, sometimes you're going to make an accident.
Yeah.
You're going to have a few rear ends. There's going to be some collisions that happen along the way. Yet, if it wasn't for those intersections, we wouldn't get to some really cool places in life. And so this is what we're going to be talking about today, how to navigate these intersections. And more importantly, what we're really going to focus on is how God actually places us in intersections for us to grow closer to Him. And at the same time, He places us at other people's intersections to hopefully help navigate them to a relationship with Him as well.
Yeah.
So, to illustrate how life is a series of intersections, we're going to play a game called This or That.
Yes. Okay.
I would like to go first with this game.
Picking a gift or giving a gift?
So I'm going to go ahead and give. The way this game works, you guys can't really play along. This is just kind of for entertainment.
You could.
But I guess you could get your own bags. I don't know. That would be a little bit. But I've got two bags here, Josh, and this is our food round.
Okay.
And so there's a food item in either one of these bags or both of these bags, and one of them you'll want to eat, and the other one maybe not so much. And you don't know which one's which. And so to help navigate your decision, I'm going to give you a choice. You can either hold the bag to kind of get an idea of like the feel, or you could smell the bag. Now you can't smell in it, because then you'll probably open your eyes and be like, I'm not going to do that one. So which would you prefer to kind of help navigate this decision?
So my nose is not that great, but I feel like years of gift giving and getting, I can pretty well like hold something. Oh man, this is very light. Both are very light.
Very.
Oh man, that's not helpful at all.
And by the way, you will have to eat whatever's in whichever bag you open. That one's not even like moving anymore.
Yeah, this
got
one
stuck
feels,
in a wrinkle.
This one feels like it's nothing, and that's
something
more substantial. I'm gonna go with the lighter option, I think.
Okay.
Just because I think even if it's bad, it might go down easy.
Okay, now maybe the reason why it's so light is because Jonathan did not want you to have to eat too much of it.
Oh no.
Do you see it? That is a piece of dog food. that is dried dog food. And yes, you will have to eat it.
All right.
We can always pause and you can like rinse your mouth out.
Yeah. Let me work my way up to this moment.
First of all, Josh, have you ever eaten dog food
I've never
before?
eaten dog food. I can't say that after this
Even
moment.
as a kid, like you didn't like sneak in and be like,
well, I didn't have a dog growing up.
Oh,
so,
well.
yeah.
Cat food? Did you have a cat?
I had a cat, and I definitely never was tempted to eat my cat's food. All right.
Here we go, Josh.
It smells kind of like
meat. If you thought white beans were bad, like this is next level.
I am excited to be able to tell you that this is not that bad. Like,
I think you're going to be disappointed.
Really? Have you had dog food?
I have.
Okay.
Not pleasant. Oh. Okay. Wow, you were handling this better than the white beans. How is that possible? Okay, there it is.
Oh man.
It hit. Maybe this is a.
This is a weird one. Tastes like a. I'm gonna forget that I'm eating dog food for a second. It tastes like really gristly chicken.
Okay. All right.
It's not that bad.
Okay.
It's not that bad.
Do we still need to pause the
I think
video?
I think I need a drink.
Okay.
I think I need a drink.
Okay.
But it wasn't that bad. I'll
Good.
be right back.
Go for it. All right, Josh is back. We're gonna go on to my round, and I'm a little worried, but Josh, What are the two
So-
this or that options that I
So
have?
my food options, one of them is just funny, but I don't think either of them are necessarily bad. The
Okay.
gifts.
There's a good and bad.
There's a really good and there's a really bad.
Okay.
But here are
Okay,
actually, you
so
can decide.
I can either I don't think I'm gonna smell through that.
Yeah,
so
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
you
have
are.
to feel.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And you can shake. Just be very careful. One of them is kind of
Okay.
maybe a little breakable.
Okay. Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Breakable. Well, since neither of them are that bad, I don't know. This has like a bread quality to it, like a
Okay.
really dense. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Are you gonna go with
this
that one?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with this
All
one.
right. So I might have fooled you a little bit because I used bubble wrap in that one because it is a little
Oh.
breakable. This one has an extra part to its gift.
Comes with a spoon, maybe.
I think this one's the better one, for sure. This is salsa, and you get to try it with my favorite way to eat salsa that comes from a jar.
With
Cool
Cool
Ranch
Ranch
Doritos.
Doritos. Let's
You
do
got
it.
you got the best option.
Yeah. What
for
was
sure.
the other one? I'm just curious.
The other one is something that my father-in-law makes, and he calls it butt mix. And it's essentially his version of Chex Mix,
Oh,
but
okay.
he has like this whole story about a butt, and yeah.
You know what? You cannot go wrong with chips and salsa.
Doesn't that combine really well?
It does.
I think it does.
It does. Okay.
Good option. Well done.
Round number 2. Thank you, Josh, for not punishing me too bad. All right, this is the gift or gag.
Gift or gag. Okay.
Gift or gag. So in one of these bags, there's a gag, and in the other one, there's something cool that you might like. Now, I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't think the gag is that crazy, and I don't think the gift is that great. So, you know.
Both are okay.
Yeah. Now, to help navigate this intersection for you, you can either ask me what color these items are, or the texture, the feel of what these items would be.
I want to know the texture.
Okay.
For sure.
This one's smooth.
Okay.
I think I would describe it as being smooth. Otherwise, I give too much away. This one, I'm gonna go with furry,
Furry.
fuzzy, furry, something like that.
Got to be like a stuffed animal, maybe, or maybe it's on theme with the dog, and it's like a stuffed chew
Could
toy.
be. It could be.
Um.
Which you have to like chew like the rest
Ah,
of the
man,
podcast.
smoother. Okay, I got to get one of these right. I'm gonna choose the smooth.
I think you
over
chose
the
wisely.
fuzzy. Really?
You chose
Really,
wisely.
really.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, this one's super light too. It's more dog food. I'm just kidding. It is $1.
$1.
Sweet.
There you go. So
Awesome.
you can maybe buy half of a can of salsa with that. Maybe.
Maybe.
The
You're
other
all
option was you were gonna have to sport a funky wig.
For the rest of the okay.
I didn't want to say hairy, so that would just be like
That
too,
would-
so
that
I went
would-
like
that would
furry.
literally
I
be
don't
what
know.
it is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
hair.
So anyway, that you avoided that one.
Awesome. I got $1.
I wonder if I can get 2 for 2 here.
All right. So one of these is a super awesome thing that your kids will be like really excited that you got.
So much
The
pressure.
other one is something that I know that your kids will dislike, and I would love even if as a challenge you're like, I have to at least use this with my kids like one of these.
Okay.
Whichever one you choose. So
Color or feel?
color or feel?
Let's go with feel.
Feel? Okay, so this one, sort of like a smooth feel. I would describe it as maybe like I don't want to give too much away,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
maybe like a plasticky feel.
Okay. Yeah,
Plasticky feel.
yeah.
And this one has more of a like a papery feel.
Man. Okay. So
Like
one
kind of rough a little bit. Yeah.
kind of rough. One is really cool. I'm gonna go with the rough.
The rough? Okay.
Oh man, here we go. I'm curious. I chose poorly. It looks like I may
chose
have.
the 4 one.
Darn. Yeah, why would I choose rough? Like it's in the name. It's gonna be rough.
You
right?
might like this.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what your upbringing was.
Josh,
I
you're too good of a
certainly.
rapper.
Okay, there we go.
All right, what do we got here? Okay, this is a book.
It's a copy of Pilgrim's Progress.
Oh, you know what? I actually read Pilgrim's Progress as a kid, or at least the kid version. They have
Yeah.
one. It's been a while.
Did you enjoy it?
I was in middle school. I enjoyed as much as I was gonna enjoy it.
This
Yeah.
was the adult version that I had to read in college, and I hated it. It was
well,
my least favorite.
It's pretty intense.
book
Like
I
how
went
many
through.
How many pages we got here?
It's a lot.
I mean, we got like close to 500 pages. Well, you know what? I just saw an illustration, so at least they've got some pictures.
And what you passed up on was a super fun Xbox game that I
You
think
know
your
what?
kids
Yeah,
would
no,
love.
they're gonna hate me. They're gonna absolutely hate me.
But now you
that I
can
got
read Pilgrim's Progress
Okay.
to them.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's absolutely what I'm gonna do. All right, so hopefully this has been somewhat enjoyable. If nothing else, Josh ate dog food. So I think that's a win. But we have a series of intersections that we encounter in life, and some of them you see coming because people let you know, hey, there's an intersection coming, so prepare for it. I think of just some of those natural milestones that we go through, like getting your driver's license. Did you navigate that intersection well in the sense that maybe you had some people coaching you? Were you one of those kids that was like deathly afraid and you're like, no, I'm not going to drive until I'm 18, or were you like 16? I don't care, I'm going to get it.
I was pumped.
Yeah.
And I think my dad set me up well for that too. Like we parallel parked until I could parallel park into any spot at all. But I was.
Do you
I
still
was
have that
pumped.
skill? Mm-hmm. Nice.
I've taught that to like 3 of our students.
Nice,
So,
nice.
but no, I felt super excited. Now the one thing I was not prepared for was the responsibility of keeping your keys. I lost my keys a whole lot at that first time.
I've heard
like holding on to
stories.
those was not the best. So lanyards became my best friend.
Now you're not rocking lanyards anymore, are you?
No, no. I feel like I've gotten to the point where I don't lose my keys.
That's good.
So
You've matured. That's good. Another, I think, big intersection that people go through, and this is just one that, like, our school system, I think, does their best to help us navigate, but it's that whole college career. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? Do you think that you navigated that season well?
I probably did not give it as much effort as I probably should have. I think in my mind, I was just like, God's gonna help me decide this.
Okay.
And I visited some schools, and my parents were a lot more stressed out about it. But we all visited Campbellsville together, and it just felt like a very good fit.
Yeah,
if that makes
the
sense.
right spot.
But I definitely did not spend nearly as. But I definitely could not see myself going anywhere else. I have friends that are lifelong friends that if my life were in a different direction, I think I would look way different.
Sure.
If I had taken a different direction in that intersection.
Maybe even like with them, like the path that they took, type of thing.
Well, that and like just if I hadn't have taken that intersection of going to Campbellsville, not having had the life that I had, you
Gotcha.
know, like I don't know who I would have fallen in with. Like there was
Yeah.
even the thought of going to Georgetown and playing soccer.
Yeah.
My life would have looked drastically different
Yeah.
than now. I mean, I don't even know if I would have been in ministry.
I
So,
mean,
like,
you could be playing for FIFA right now.
I could have my likeness in a game, in a video game, if I went that way.
Wow, Campbellsville, you really let Josh down here, man. I think marriage is another one of those life intersections. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think a lot of people have many folks who are helping them navigate that one. I think there's a general, hey, we talk about it, we watch movies about it, we may even, dream
Absolutely.
about it, but we don't always have people really helping us navigate it. Can you imagine, though, had you not navigated that intersection of your life well, where you could be possibly right now?
It's hard to even think about. But I do think that getting people like Emily and I are helping Rebecca and Andrew, who are about a former student of ours who's about to get married, go through marriage counseling and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that Emily and I did not seek out enough. And it like navigating those first few years was a lot tougher because of that. So it was, but at least making that decision with Emily, I could not see who knows where those other roads would have taken me, right? I don't know.
Where you'd be, who you'd be, yeah, for sure. Those are the easy ones that I think most people at least see coming. And so if they want to, they can seek advice and they can seek counsel. There are other intersections, though, in our lives where we just don't see them coming. There are things that we wake up in the day, we think we're going to have a normal day, and all of a sudden, the next day you realize, oh my gosh, I hit. I mean, it was a head-on collision, and I had no idea that it was going to happen. There's some moments in my life where I didn't realize it, and only looking back was like, that was an intersection. And I didn't navigate it well. And I drove out of there with, my bumper hanging off the car. One that comes to my mind is, gosh, this was several years ago, actually. I was overseeing a children's ministry on a Wednesday night. And one of my roles was to help volunteers and the kids and just make sure the program went really smoothly. And I remember one time this volunteer came up to me and said, "Hey, that kid," and there's always that kid, right? That kid's making this really hard, and I don't know if I can keep doing this. That kid doesn't get his act together. And so, wanting to advocate for the volunteer, I approached the parent, or at least the mom at the time, and I was like, "Hey," and I thought this was good. I thought this was a solid strategy. I was like, "Hey, we really would like little Timmy here to engage. What are some tips and tricks that his teachers at school use to really make sure that he engages?" I don't know. That's how I thought I approached it, but she responded with it, "Hey, it's not my kid, because clearly all you're saying is my kid is awful and I'm an awful parent, and it's your volunteers. That's the problem."
Yeah.
And again, not realizing that this was an intersection moment that I needed to navigate really smoothly. Well, I kind of just approached it with, well, the other kids are doing just fine. Clearly it's not the volunteer teaching staff. It's Timmy here. And again, that didn't go well, and like we're headed right for a collision. I don't realize it, and she pushes back, and I dig my heels in and say, "Well, here's the standard of behavior that we are expecting. If he's not able to maintain that, I think we're not going to be able to have you in the program, or at least for a time."
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was they left the church over it. It was one of those, he's awful, and we're leaving. And I didn't realize this was going to be one of those intersections where not only did it not go well with that family, but there was other leaders on staff who then were looking at me like, "Oh, hey, this guy's a problem because he's just chased away one of our families in the church." And it's like, oh my gosh, had I known that was going to be an intersection, had someone warned me, hey, navigate this really well, I would have done it probably a lot smoother than I had. But I just didn't see it coming. Is there any of those I didn't see it coming moments for you?
No, I regret quite a bit, especially during my late high school, early college days. I'm really bad at navigating friendships with people long distance.
Yeah.
And when I moved from high school to college, there were just some people that I was really, really close with, and we hung out every day. And it was one of those things where we're like, "Oh, we'll keep in touch. And they did that well, but I did not. Yeah. And there's a guy, and this is one of my biggest regrets. If he's listening to this, then hey, know that I do think about it all the time. I had a buddy named Dylan who I kind of helped navigate through some pretty tough moments in his life when he was in high school. And he was a really big believer. I was too, and so we encouraged each other. And then going into college, I just did not give him a lot of time. And there were times where he would reach out and be like, "Hey, can we hang?" And I just was not willing to drive back or to give weekends up or anything like that. I had new friends and new experiences in college that I was dedicating to, and ultimately he went through some really tough times, and now he's not even believing, and I just, there's a lot of blame that I give myself for that. I know that that's not all me.
Sure.
But I know that, and that kind of goes into what we're talking about next too. But for me, that was an intersection moment where I realized, all right, my goal when I'm in college is to learn how to make disciples. I'm studying to be a missionary, but I'm ignoring the fields that God has me in. And so deciding in that moment, it was a big harsh learning experience, but I realized, and this is why I'm so passionate about the idea that I'm a missionary where I am. Yeah. And it's not like I'm learning to be one somewhere someday. Right. It's God has me here. Who is he putting in my path every day? So that was a big intersection for me where I realized, okay, I need to make a turn, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and like you said, that's kind of where we're headed now. I think Jesus does this really well. If you read through the Gospels, he's constantly either stepping into people's intersection moments or even creating moments for them. We've got individuals that, like Nicodemus, who comes to visit Jesus at night, and it may have been one of those, man, this has been a long day of ministry, it's nighttime, hey, I need some rest right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang out with my 12, we need some of that bonding time. But he's like, no, okay, this is an intersection moment. I'm going to recognize it for what it is. And I'm going to use this intersection to actually have you actually take a hard right so that you can really discover the Father for who he is. And there's individuals like the woman at the well. This is one that he creates. I mean, he intentionally was there in Samaria so that he could have this moment with this woman, and her life was never the same after that intersection with Jesus. Zacchaeus comes to mind. I mean, Zacchaeus probably doesn't realize it. He's maybe hoping, maybe trying to place himself in the path of Christ, and Christ realizes, no, this is an intersection moment. Hey, let's go hang out at your home today. And I think every single one of us, we want to make a difference in this world in a positive way. And one of the best ways that we can do that is simply like Jesus, either helping to create these intersection moments for people, or at least having eyes that recognize it.
Absolutely.
And when you see it, say, okay, how can I help move them? How can I help direct them? How can I help navigate them closer to Jesus so they don't have a collision, so they don't make a wrong turn? And I think sometimes they're easier to see than others. Some of them are really, really obvious. Some of them are like, oh, hey, if your friend is asking you spiritual questions and they have never asked you spiritual questions, it's like, oh my goodness, this is an intersection moment.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Christ. If there's a crisis and someone is going through something, and God's word like speaks directly into what they're going through, that's an intersection moment. Take advantage of it, step into it, allow the truth of Scripture to actually begin to challenge them closer to God. When I'm even just now thinking about some of those, hey, it didn't take a whole lot of discernment for me to see an intersection moment. There's one that comes to my mind that really took place just a few months ago. We've got a couple in our life group, fantastic couple. And one of the goals that we have if you're a part of our life groups is the gospel and you're able to share the gospel. And so I was walking through what oftentimes that conversation looks like when I share it. And I use John 3:16, and I've got a whole little step-by-step. And so I share it with the group, and I love it because the husband was like, okay, Jonathan, that's great. But when do you really have an opportunity to have that conversation with random people? Because Jonathan, if you started into that conversation the first time that we met, I don't think we'd be friends. And I laughed. I was like, you know what? And I tried to think through, okay, when we first met, that probably wasn't I'm going to share the gospel with you moment, and it didn't take a whole lot of discernment. But the first time I met him, I knew it was a possible intersection moment. I met him actually in town. It was at a gathering with local leaders, and it was the first time that he had come to the group. And so I reached out and said, hey, my name's Jonathan, who are you? And it was just one of those fun, like, hey, this is what I do, this is what you do. And I knew, like, okay, this may not be hey, let me share the good news with you, but it's I'm a pastor, and I want to let you know that I'm a pastor. And I actually pastor a church not far, just up the street. Oh yeah, it's right off of 127. Oh, you've seen it. Okay, cool. This would be the experience that you might have if you came to the church. This is kind of the feel that we have. And we left the conversation with, hey, well, that sounds cool. Maybe my wife and I will check it out sometime. Now, I didn't know if that was going to cause them to, turn that direction. But several weeks go by, and they show up at church. And I didn't know they were going to show up at church. And he looks at me, and he's like, yeah, so we woke up today, and I looked at my wife, and I said, hey, how about we check out our friend Jonathan's church? And they've been here ever since. And they come regularly. They were part of our life group. They serve in our foster care raft ministry and other ways. And they're just like two of the coolest people in our church. How did that happen? Well, I recognize that without a whole lot of discernment, at least let's present an opportunity to be a part of our church. And certainly, he went ahead and turned down that path, which is really cool. Is there other thoughts that you have when it comes to moments in your life where it just was kind of a no-brainer?
Yeah, and I think it helps, right? Because we're pastors, and so that's an automatic. Like you almost know the moment that you introduce somebody yourself to somebody that they are going to be willing or not willing to talk about it.
Yeah, you get a quick vibe like,
for sure.
No, I'm talking to a pastor. I gotta back out of here real fast.
We've had this conversation, but sometimes people just like spill their guts out to you immediately.
Yes, it's just like finally I get to actually communicate to a pastor.
And I was just trying to like say hi, but
I was just asking for directions.
But one that happened recently was like I mean, it was just a very obvious moment that okay, God is setting something up here. That this morning, the last morning of TCTC, which is a conference in Gatlinburg that we go to every year with our students, and we woke up, and there was a student with us. Her name's Casey, who had been really cheerful most of the week, and then that morning, like we were all getting our stuff together, and we were all like hanging out in a space that we could get like mainly it was me to like corral them all, right? As soon as you're done with everything on your checklist, like go over here. And all of the kids were having fun except for Casey. She was looking at her phone. She was really upset. And I was wondering like maybe it's like like post like we're about to go home blues. But I walked up to her. I started talking to her about whatever was going on. And she said that one of her friends was moving away and she was having a really hard time with it. She had just got that text that morning. She realized that one of her best friends, like she just felt this loneliness that was immediately going to happen when she goes back home. We started to talk about it, and I tried to encourage her as best I could. But then she was just with me, like right the whole like the rest of the day. She was walking with me and talking with me all the way up to the conference because we walked there, and then she sat by me. And I had to go get the communion because the very last day of TCTC we do communion. I come back and she's the first person. I'm about to hand it to her, and she just sits this face of, and I was like, what was that face, right? Yeah. Like, are you so sad about your friend, like type of thing? She says, no, I can't take this. And I was like, why? Like, I was like, we have gluten-free options if that's your problem. And she goes, no, I have not been baptized yet. I believe in God. I feel like I believe in God. But I've not been baptized yet. And it was just this very clear, like, okay, not only is she sad that she's not going to take communion, but it's very clear to me that baptism has been on her heart. Yeah. And I'm just like, do you want to talk about it, right? Yeah. And so it's just like, this is like God throwing open the door through just me, like, about to pass her communion, and she recognizing this is not for me yet, but like all the visual cues of, but I want it. And it's not just because it's a snack that everybody else is taking. Like, I want this. And so that led to many other conversations, and eventually like led to her getting baptized at our church when we got back. And that was just like a big, okay, awesome, God, well done. Another moment I do want to share just really quickly, because that was more like a pastor one, right? But for you guys that you can maybe relate to a bit more, there was a time where Emily and I were going to her school to pick up something that she had forgotten, and she never forgets anything. And so that was clue number one, that something was a bit different. I try to be every day, like very in tune with the idea of what I just shared earlier. Maybe there's a missional moment, and that's going to happen. I hope for those. And we're walking through the school to get to her classroom, and there is a guy who I've interacted with a few times who used to come to our church a lot, was a part of the youth group with the guy who was before me. And so like there's like when I came in, he was too old to be in the youth group, but I still tried to help him out a little bit. But he wasn't going to our church. But he was the janitor there, and he was like the only other person in the building. And we walk by, and Emily's like, oh, this is Eric. And I'm like, oh, hey, Eric. And Eric is always like a very cheerful dude. Yeah. Like no matter what, he's going to be like, oh, hey, like, and they'll talk your ear off, and like just really willing to be open and encouraging. And he was just like, hey. Mm-hmm. And like Emily was like, how was your day? Like what's going on? He was like, honestly, not so good. I just kind of like have some stuff going on. And he was willing to just like leave it at that. And immediately I was just like, okay, this is maybe God opening the door for something. And I was like, okay, do you want to talk about it? Like, is there anything that we can do for you? Like, you very clearly are not looking like yourself. Like, what's going on? And he started to go on about a couple of different things. He wasn't as open about them at the time, but just some like family issues that were going on, and health issues he was having, and he was just scared, and like all like that day was just like a culmination of bad things. I think we can all relate to that. And Emily and I just prayed for him and put our hands on his shoulder, and like was trying to encourage him and like speak some truth into his life. And like at the end of that, I just gave him my number. I was like, hey, like if you need to talk, like let's talk. and we left. And since then, like it's just been this thing where maybe weekly, at least most weeks, I will meet with Eric and we'll just go over things that are going on. And like the dude is like a good friend of mine and a person that I will chat with all the time about God stuff. And like he's been to our church many times since, but like at least since then he's become a very active member in his community and in the church that he does attend, which is just awesome to see. Like, and since then he's gotten a whole lot of other things. It's just very clear that God's been working on his life, and that was I hope me being there for him was like a part of that. So.
Yeah. You know, just like Jesus, we have those moments in our lives where you can either swerve around people or you can help navigate them. And I've had my fair share of, I'm gonna swerve around folks because I'm dialed into my time schedule. I've got things I've got to get done. They seem a little weird. I remember even talking with this guy. I engaged a conversation with him because I wanted to have a spiritual conversation with him. And I remember, he was just one. He was spiritual, but it was like wacky spiritual stuff. And the whole time I was having this conversation with him, I'm sensing, okay, like direct it towards Jesus. And I remember he had to walk away and I wasn't able to get his number and I walked away. But the last words he said to me was, and it's one of those like, oh man, I wish I could go back in time. Hey, thank you so much for talking with me. I feel like I've really solidified some of the spiritual thoughts that I've had. I really believe these things even more. It's like, no, that's like the opposite. Man, I can't believe I missed this opportunity because I was just so, whether I was just too concerned of what he was going to think of me or I wasn't going to have the right answer, that I missed an opportunity. But what we realize, and I think Josh has explained really well too, is that there are going to be moments where God is going to place you in front of people. Some of the times it's going to be inconvenient. Other times you're going to recognize it. Maybe you're going to see it coming because you've been praying about it and it's finally that open door that you've thought, hey, God, I would really love to be able to share my faith with this person. And it's in those moments that maybe they've just gone through something. Maybe they're just about to go through something.
Yeah.
And God is placing you at that intersection at that particular time to actually help navigate them with just the right word, with just the right act of kindness so that they can see Jesus through you. I think I'm going to tell just one more story, but I think of this moment that happened earlier this year. There was two ladies, this was in January, they came to our church for the first time. I think it was kind of a, hey, new year, let's get right with our Creator type of thing. And so they came to our church, and it was really neat because it was the week that we were doing our Connect event. And our Connect event is an opportunity to meet the staff. We eat pizza with people who have been kind of on the fringes, but maybe they want to go a little bit deeper with our church. And so we just kind of talk about church stuff, and we hear their stories, and we talk about next steps that they can take with our church. And they were not signed up for it. This was their first Sunday. They had no idea the event was going on, but they're like, yeah, no, free pizza, let's do it. And so they came to the gathering, and they shared a little bit of how they got here. And one of the ladies was saying how she was buying some stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and I think it was a headboard. Buying a headboard, and so she goes over to the guy's house, and the guy sells her the headboard and says, hey, if you don't have a church, you should check out Anderson Christian Church. She's like, oh, okay, whatever. And then she started driving by the church every once in a while, and each time we're like, oh yeah, that was the church that he invited us to. Yeah. And so months and months and months go by, and finally they're like, okay, new year, like let's go. And they show up and they tell their little story, and we're trying to figure out, okay, who's the guy? What did he look like? I don't know. Maybe it was this guy. Maybe it wasn't. And what was really neat is just within like a few weeks, both ladies give their life to Christ in baptism.
Yeah.
Not only that, but one of the ladies' daughters gives her life to Christ in baptism. And they're just phenomenal women.
Great people.
And a couple weeks ago, they finally identified who the person was that invited them. And so this woman goes up to this older gentleman and says, hey, did you sell me a headboard? And he's like, I don't know. Maybe. I sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Hey, well, yeah, no, and you invited me to church. Like, that may have been me. That's something that I might have done. And then they kind of shared the story. And I remember the gentleman, he was in my office just a few weeks ago, and he was standing there and he said, Jonathan, in all the years that I've invited people to be a part of church community, this may be the very first time that it's actually led to someone giving their life to Christ in baptism. And the reason why I share that story is because you never know when that moment's going to be. That God is constantly putting these intersections in our lives, and He may be putting you at just the right place to say just the right word to help navigate someone to a deeper relationship with God.
And that has eternal consequences.
And absolutely, it has eternal consequences, and we all know that if you're able to direct them that direction, well, life is so much better with God, community, and purpose.